So thank you guys for tuning in to this video. One of the things you're going to see at the Venetian, the action there was great. You know, I can't say enough good things about the Venetian. My personal opinion, I believe that the Venetian is the best casino in Vegas. They end up giving great service. And the best part about their poker room, besides it being brand new, is they're trying to bring in other action than just standard no limit hold'em. So Wayne and I were brought in, or I should say Wayne officially was brought in to have a meetup game there, and of course I was there to support Wayne. As you guys know, we're going to be there a couple of more times. I believe September 13th, October, I believe it's the 12th, it's on a Friday, and then December, I want to say 6th. Those are going to be our 3 other meetup games, or Wayne's 3 other meetup games, and we're going to be there supporting the 125 Pot Limit Omaha Mix, which, by the way, is happening every Friday now at the Venetian at 2 p.m. And if you do want to be added to the PLO Mix WhatsApp group chat, please text the number down below here. Again, it's Friday, every Friday at 2 o'clock. And it seems like, I think they've got 2 tables going of it yesterday. You're going to see a little bit of everything. Pardon the video. I was trying something new with my editor where I was recording with Ray-Ban Meta glasses. And when we transferred the video, they looked great on the surface, but when we transferred the video, they lowered the quality. And one thing that I noticed is when I had glasses, I'm moving constantly left and to the right, where the standard vlog, you know, you just have the camera and then the end result. So this is something that we tried a little differently. I don't know if we're going to do it again. Probably not, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And as always, play smart and run like a god. Yeah, look at this. And this is just amazing. Chicken with biscuits and gravy. This is probably not as healthy as Wayne's, but they're absolutely amazing. So now, one of the nice things about the mix game that they have at the Venetian every Friday at 2 o'clock is we implemented something called the small blind jackpot. Now, if you're not familiar with the small blind jackpot is, let me explain it real quick. The small blind jackpot is a separate game that doesn't affect what is in the pot, but what it does affect is the action around it. There's an ante that's put on the button. In this case, we're putting a $10 ante on the button, and the only person who's eligible to win it is the small blind. Now, the small blind has to win it by scooping the entire pot. So if you're in Big O, you have to win both high and low. If you're in double board bomb pot, you have to win both top and bottom boards. If all your opponents fold, that is one way of winning. Now, the nice thing about that is it creates action, and it's a progressive jackpot. So if the person in the small blind does not win the hand when the button moves, the next person adds an ante to it. Moving forward, this is always going to be on the PLO Mix at the Venetian. So here we're looking down in the small blind with Ace, King, 5, Deuce, 3. Now, the pre-flop action, the gentleman raised in front of me, and I'm in the small blind. I decide to 3-bet to $65. Now, you might say that that's a little loose with Ace, King, Deuce, 3, 5, but you also have to keep in mind that's a pretty strong hand, and when I'm in the small blind, I'm going to get action. So I get 2 callers, and with 2 callers, the flop's going to come out, and it's not going to improve my hand at all. It's going to come out Jack, Jack, 3. So in this situation, I'm like, well, I have a pair of 3s. I'm going to go ahead and check. 2 players behind decide to check behind. So when the turn comes out in 8 of diamonds, I'm thinking, well, I do have a low draw here. I've got some equity here, but I'm still just going to check here. I'm going to see if I can get there on the river. River comes out, the 9 of hearts. Now there's a rainbow board out there, and at this point, I think the only way I can win this hand is by betting it. So I announce a bet of $160. That's almost a full pot size bet. First player folds. It looks like I have quad jacks, or I have some kind of jack dangler. There's no low out there. Since my first 2 opponents checked, I assumed that I was good on the bluff, and I was, and we end up scooping this one. Here we have another Big O hand, and we're on the $80 straddle. So the Venetian changed their straddling rules from where you can straddle on the button to straddle under the gun, but now you can straddle multiple times. So this is amazing. Of course, since it's the meetup game, I'm straddling for 80. I'm bringing in the action. And, there was a few times during the night where I think we got it up to 160. I was one of those players. The player to my right did it twice, I think hoping I would make it 320. But at the time, I think our stack sizes were only like 1,800 or 2,000. So what am I folding when it's only 6 big blinds, really? But in any case, I did not do that. But here I am straddling for the max, $80. And I look down at queen, queen, 9, 5, ace. And, you know, you can make some arguments here to pot it. And I did go in the tank a little bit, and I'm like, wow, this is actually a pretty decent hand. And I said, you know, I think I'm just going to play pretty safe. These two guys, I do have position on them. They're good players. So we go 3 ways to the flop on an $80 straddle. So there's $240 in the pot. And here comes out the flop, Jack 3, 6. So here we have an overpair. We also have an ace 5 low. I decide to check. I'm realizing my equity. Now the turn comes out a deuce of clubs. At this point, I'm like, well, I have second not low. They both check. I decide to bet $100. And, you know, this looks pretty value heavy, and it is very value heavy. I mean, I do have an overpair, which is going to be good a lot. Ace 5, I'm blocking a straight. They both fold. I end up showing them, telling them, yeah, it's going to be on the vlog anyways, and we scoop. Now, the next hand that we look at, we are $75 on the button. I ended up 3-betting this hand. I have 7, 8, 10 jack. We're on PLO 4. So again, the mix is PLO 4, Big O, and then double board bomb pot, 4 card, high, high. It's real easy to remember. Anytime you have 4 cards, you're just going for high. Anytime you have 5 cards, it's Big O, and you're going for high, low. So in this situation, on the button, I don't mind 3-betting with this hand because there's a lot of flops I'm either going to smash or I'm going to miss it. Now, one thing you guys don't know that's going on in this situation is one of the gentlemen that I'm playing against has literally check potted the last 6 hands in a row. So when I look down and the flop is deuce 6, 8, complete rainbow, I have top pair with a gut shot. I end up betting 125 here. I get one player who calls, and then the gentleman who has check potted every time for the last 6 hands decides to check pot it again. Now, he's done this with a wide variety of hands. He could have a set of deuces here. He could have a set of 6s. He could have a set of 8s. In this situation, I honestly think he has something like 5, 7 or 7, 9. So I think my pair of 8s are good. Like, I'm going in the tank here, and this is like, screw it. Let's just run with it. This guy's giving me action all day. I'm going to give him action right now. I'm stuck about, I don't know, about $2,000 in this game. Because this guy keeps barbecuing me, and I'm like, I'm eventually going to get him. So I tell him we rip it one time because you do have the option to run it multiple times. Bink, I hit my gen card with the 9, and then the river comes another 9, and he shows 7, 9, 9. Now, honestly, that was probably the only hand that he could have me barbecued on the flop, but my read was very right as far as his range. Let me know what you guys think. So upcoming in this hand is yet another $80 straddle, and we're on Big O. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, Professor, you're just nuts. What the first person calls behind me, and then the player on the button, known as Brad or AZ Viper at the Madhouse, he decides to rip it all in for $300. And I'm like, Brad, did you even look? Now, Brad is literally one of the tightest guys I've played poker with for the past year, so I know when he makes it 300, his worst case hand is probably a 3-3. He's probably got like king, king, ace, deuce, something to that effect. And I'm just like, oh my God, I literally had the tightest guy in the world raise me 300. So at this point, I'm thinking, just give me a monster hand where I can like make it 1,000, or give me a hand that I can just fold. Give me like 7, 8, 9, 9 jack. In terms of big blinds, when you factor that $300 is really only 4 big blinds, it does open up what my calling range is. So if I do have a hand like ace, 10, 10, 4, 7, I'll probably call with that. That's probably going to be some of my bottom range calling. Now, when I look down at a really decent premium hand like ace, deuce, 3, 6, queen, which is what I look down at, I decide to make it $1,000. I'm going to squeeze out the extra $80 in there. I end up turning over ace, deuce, 3 in front of Brad with a queen and a 6. He actually turns over ace, king, jack, 3. So we have a better low draw than he does. He's got ace 3. We end up flopping a pair of aces with a better low draw. Turns a 5 of clubs. So we're free rolling, and we hit a queen. So we end up having aces and queens for top 2 pair and the nut low. So we're going to scoop this one. Now this next one ends up being a fun one. We, again, are looking down at a $20 straddle. We've got a couple people calling. Gets down to the $10 straddle. He decides to call. I look down at my hand, and lo and behold, I have aces with a 3, ace, ace, queen, 10, 3. I do a full pot size bet, $120. Player to my left thinks about it, grabs 4 chips, says, why not? I've got position on you. Don't really blame him there. Next player, next gentleman in the hat, who is on the button, he's got position as well. He says, all right, this is pretty reasonable. Player to his left says, you know, that's a little too much for me. And the other straddle decides to call. So we are going 4 ways to a flop. I'm thinking, wow, this is great action. I've got aces double suited with an ace 3 low. I've got a bunch of high cards. I don't think, I want this 4-way action. And look at this flop. Oh my word. It's a deuce, it's a 5, and it's an 8. So I have the nut low with an overpair, backdoor hearts, backdoor diamonds. First player jams all in for 200 and change. I go ahead and I'm like, well, let's go ahead and rip out a bundle. I decide I'm going to make it, I believe it's $1,000 is what I say. Because I'm like, that pretty much puts the stamp on, let's get it all in on this hand. So first player, it's going in the tank a little bit. Now you have to factor his SPR is not that much, so his range of calling could be pretty wide here. I mean, there's 480 in the pot. He has about 350. He folds. It's a pretty tight fold, but you never know what he has. Gentleman behind him actually has 1,000, so his SPR is a little bit different, so he ends up folding. And we end up turning over our cards, and the gentleman has ace 4, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm in really good shape. It's a fair fight here. Definitely a fair fight. He's got like ace queen 4, so here I'm winning both ways. And the turn's a 3. No longer a fair fight. We're not going to win this one, folks. We end up losing this one, and sometimes that's the way the card gods choose. Now, this next hand that we're going to look at is a PLO 4 hand. There's a $20 straddle out there. And I end up looking down at 8, 10, 10 king with pocket 10s and 8 king. I like this hand. This is a pretty decent hand. There's a lot of flops that I'm going to like, but keep in mind, having pocket 10s, if I do flop top set, it might be a draw heavy board. Flop comes 10, 9, 4 with 2 spades. So this is one of the most draw heavy boards in pot limit Omaha, 9-10 with spades. So I decided to lead out and do what I call a value feeler, where I end up betting about $30. There's been a lot of times where I've bet $30 on a draw. This time I have the effect of nuts and I'm betting $30. Plus I'm trying to feel my opponents out to see if they want to raise and play for more money. They do not. So we end up going 3 ways to the turn. Keep in mind that this is very draw heavy. Turn ends up coming out a queen. Now, it does not put the flush out there. It's a queen of clubs, or queen of diamonds, pardon me. I end up checking it. My next opponent checks it, and the player on the button decides to bet $150. Now, one thing that you need to know about this player is he check potted me 6 times in a row. Anytime he's on position, he's always going to bet position. So I go ahead and bet call $150. Now there's a few reasons why I do this, because I know if I hit the river, I can end up checking, letting him bet, and then maximizing my value. River puts out a 10, so we end up having quads. In PLO, there's hardly anybody that ever checks quads. I do check quads. When I check, he ends up betting $375. I check jam all in. It's an extra $600 to him. He goes in the tank for a little bit, which I've got to give this man some respect, because the fact that he went in the tank, if he had a hand like Jack King, he's going in the tank debating if I could do this with King Jack. And believe it or not, if I had a hand like King Jack, I would do something like this, turn my hand into a bluff, especially if I had a dangling 10. So the fact that he goes in the tank to debate it, I got to give this man some respect. He was a very aggressive opponent of mine, but I did play him absolutely as best as I could in this hand, because he does contemplate calling, and eventually he ends up folding. And yeah, I tell him, yeah, we had quads, it'll be on the vlog. So we scooped this one. A few times I flopped quads where it was like that. How much is it? It's like 400?
100, 200, 300. 415.
We'll go with 12.
I'm sorry, I got a decision. You know what I feel like? Ice cream and an ice cream sandwich. But the ice cream melts and all you're left with is the crust. I'm gonna watch.
All right, what do we have? 415.
Probably will win this, but I'm gonna watch.
I have hearts. 8.
When in doubt, fold. I think I made a good fold. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
On the $40 straddle on Big O. Oh, I'm on aces. All right, I check. Very, very tight check.
4 players. Good. That's not what's familiar. Dude, don't ever apologize. That flop and the turn was back too because I had diamonds and fours and the 3. Yeah, it was a fair fight. 160. You had like king, queen, jack, 10 double suit. King, queen, 10, you had double suit. Yeah, it's beautiful. 160. All in.
Check. Jam.
Check. Everything played.
No, the only in increments of 5. What is it? 305. Now I know what some of you guys are thinking, Professor. You're just lighting money on fire here. In some cases I am. In some cases I'm not. Once I put the 160 in there, it's an extra $140 to call. I don't feel that my opponent behind me is going to rip it all in at that point. So really, at that point, I'm calling a total of 300 to win the possibility of $1,000. Maybe I get half of it. Maybe I get all of it. In some cases, my ace king is going to be good here. These mixed PLO games do bring a significant amount of action, and the dealers at the Venetian do an excellent job. Now, the turn ends up coming out a 9. I do not have a 9 in my hand, so I end up checking it over. My opponent checks behind. When the river comes out an ace, I find that I actually have some good showdown value. I don't need to bluff at it at all. I go ahead and check. He shows me ace 3, and we're going to end up losing this. But check out the Venetian Mixed PLO every Friday at 2, and they're probably going to do it Thursday and Saturday too. Play smart and run like a god.